Before the International Space Station, before astronauts stayed in orbit for months on end, there was Skylab. Launched in 1973, Skylab was a bold experiment, NASA's very first space station. But while you may have heard of Apollo and the moon landings, Skylab's story has remained mostly in the shadows. Today, we uncover the triumphs, the tragedies, and the lasting impact of this pioneering mission. The year was 1973. Apollo had achieved its goal of putting a man on the moon, but public interest in space exploration was fading. NASA faced budget cuts, political pressure, and a question: what next? Their answer: Skylab, a science laboratory in low Earth orbit, built to study how humans could live and work in space for extended periods of time. By converting the upper stage of a Saturn V rocket into a makeshift station, NASA aimed to keep US astronauts in orbit and maintain momentum after Apollo. On May 14, 1973, a modified Saturn V rocket thundered into the sky. Inside its payload fairing sat Skylab. An orbital workshop, observation deck, and science lab all rolled into one. But soon after reaching orbit, mission controllers realized something was wrong. Skylab's micrometeoroid shield and one of its main solar panels had been torn off during launch. Temperatures inside the station soared to dangerous levels, over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly 50 degrees Celsius. Without power and protection, Skylab's mission seemed doomed before it even began. Determined to save the station, NASA quickly came up with a daring plan. Astronauts on the first Skylab crew, Charles Pete Conrad, Paul Weitz, and Joseph Kerwin, would deploy a makeshift sunshield, affectionately called a parasol, to cool the interior. After docking, the crew carefully maneuvered outside to free the jammed solar panel and install the parasol. It worked. Skylab's temperature dropped to a safer range, and the station was back in business. This was a triumph of improvisation, showcasing NASA's ability to solve life and death problems in real time. Once repaired, Skylab became a home in space for 3 consecutive astronaut crews. Skylab 2, the repair crew, stayed for 28 days, Skylab 3 stayed for 59 days, and Skylab 4 set a then record with 84 days in orbit. Inside, the astronauts performed hundreds of experiments. They studied the sun with telescopes that offered the clearest view yet of solar flares. They investigated how microgravity affected muscle mass and bone density, providing insight into long-duration space travel. They even tested how spiders spun webs in zero-G. But living in orbit wasn't all smooth sailing. Crew members faced isolation, rigid work schedules, and space sickness. Despite these hurdles, each mission brought back invaluable data, shaping our understanding of how humans adapt to life beyond Earth. One controversial chapter in Skylab's story is the so-called Skylab mutiny. Some reports claimed that the crew on the final mission became overwhelmed by exhausting schedules and requested a day off, leading to misunderstandings with mission control. While mutiny is an exaggeration, the incident highlighted the mental and emotional strain of living in a confined orbital laboratory. In reality, NASA and the astronauts came to a better understanding of crew work-rest balance, a lesson vital for future missions. Skylab was never intended to orbit indefinitely. After the final crew left in 1974, the station remained unmanned. NASA hoped to boost its orbit later with a space shuttle flight, but the shuttle wasn't ready in time. By 1979, Skylab's orbit decayed sooner than expected. Frantic efforts were made to guide its re-entry over the Indian Ocean. However, on July 11, 1979, Skylab broke apart in Earth's atmosphere, scattering debris across parts of Western Australia. Headlines screamed about fiery metal raining from the sky, and souvenir hunters rushed to collect pieces. Although there were no injuries, the event grabbed global attention, marking a dramatic end to America's first space station. Despite its short lifespan, Skylab's influence on space exploration is undeniable. Its experiments paved the way for the International Space Station, launched decades later. Many of Skylab's lessons, crew health, habitability, orbital repairs, remain central to how we build and operate space stations today. Skylab proved that humans could live, work, and conduct sophisticated science in orbit for months at a time, laying the groundwork for the next generation of explorers. Skylab was more than a hastily repurposed rocket stage. It represented the spirit of discovery, a bridge between the Apollo era and the ongoing quest to stay in space for the long haul. Its challenges and triumphs continue to shape our future among the stars. What do you think? Could Skylab have been saved if the space shuttle was ready sooner? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on Skylab Stories. If you enjoyed this deep dive, like and subscribe for more epic tales from aviation and space. Until next time, keep exploring.